My name is Eugene Worley, and along with my wife Glenda, we have spent nearly 50 years in ministry in Ethiopia, Norway, the UK, and in the US. I'd like in these podcasts to share with you some of our experiences from those years. I will never forget, as a young Bible college student, hearing the challenge of an open door in Ethiopia. Dr. Fred Dollison, our missions director, had just returned from that country and had an audience with Emperor Haile Selassie. The emperor invited the BBFI to send 100 missionaries to northern Ethiopia. In a small way, God spoke to my heart, and though it was a few years later before I knew God wanted us to be one of that number, I said yes to that still small voice. Who can argue that this was not an open door? There was not only the open door for 100 missionaries, but there was also a gift of a prime piece of property in the heart of Addis Ababa near the university. This became the location of a student center, as well as a location for the church, but also apartments for the missionaries when they arrived, both in the country and also when they came to the city from their stations up north. Many of the missionaries' children were in boarding school, so when they came into the city to visit their children, they also bought supplies to take back with them when they returned. As missionaries began to enter the country and open mission stations on the Addis Asmara Road, God opened another door for Richard and Joyce Vick. They had established a ministry to the deaf in the States. And so when they arrived in Ethiopia, they realized that very little was being done for the hearing impaired. Richard and Joyce Vick believed the door was wide open to establish a school for the deaf. Like the spider that taketh hold with her hands and is in kings' palaces, Richard was able to get an audience with Emperor Haile Selassie, requesting property for the deaf school. This request was granted, though funds were needed to build a school on that property. Yet faith led the way, and eventually funds came in to build a school, which was also used for a church. It was at this time that Glenda and I arrived into the country. Normally, missionaries entering the country would immediately begin language school. However, we decided we would wait until January to enroll in the school. This would give us time to get acclimated to the country. The Vicks invited us to work with them in the deaf ministry, which was located in Addis Ababa. Having had some training in the sign language before we arrived, this seemed to be a natural fit for our ministry. While the deaf school was being constructed, the outreach to both the hearing and the deaf was located in two different locations of the city. We used those locations to identify and locate the deaf who were generally kept at home by their parents. It also gave us an opportunity to reach out with the message of the gospel. There was an umbrella factory that employed those with physical disabilities, and it was located near one of the places where we were conducting services. Among those early ones who came to our services were 3 young men who were blind. They were Wandamu, Mana, and Tesfai Gosa. They had to go to a school for the blind, located a short distance outside of Addis Ababa, and then came to work in the umbrella factory. If you saw one, then you saw all 3. They walked all over Addis with their white canes, but they became a very important part of the ministry. One of these young men, Tesfai Gosa, had an amazing story of how when he was a young boy, he picked up a hand grenade that blew up in his face. He lost one arm and his eyesight, and his face was severely scarred. When he first started coming, he would sit on the porch and listen to the music. He was so depressed and lonely that he did not believe he would be wanted by the people inside the building. Eventually, he got the courage to go inside, and there he heard about the Lord Jesus, who said, "Him that cometh to me, I will in no wise cast out." Tesfagosa, for once in his life, knew that he was accepted for who he was, and not because of his appearance. Having attended the school for the blind, operated by the Mennonite mission, he had learned English, and he learned it well. He soon became an interpreter for the services. One day, Mrs. Vick asked if he would play the pump organ for the service. He replied, "If you want me to, I will try." Believe it or not, he learned to play the organ as well as the piano, even with one hand. As the old gospel song says, it is no secret what God can do. What he has done for others, he can do for you. 40 years later, Tesfagosa has a wife and 2 children, and is also the pastor of a church. He's an amazing man who has blessed many people and is respected by many as a man of great wisdom. In the meantime, we were able to find a house to rent, and every day we were waiting to hear if our barrels and crates had come in. Finally, we received word that the shipment arrived in Asab, Ethiopia's only seaport. It is on the coast of the Red Sea and is today a part of the country of Eritrea. Joel Donahue, a fellow missionary, was also expecting a shipment at the same time, and he suggested that we fly down together and see if we could expedite things. It was an experience that I still remember and was such a contrast to Addis Ababa. Addis is 7,000 to 9,000 feet above sea level, while Asab is only at sea level. So it was very hot. The average temperature for September is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We stayed in the Sudan Interior Mission guest house, and an Ethiopian that was associated with that mission helped negotiate the shipping company. Joel was an amazing person who was able to talk to anyone and was at ease in talking to people about the Lord. The highlight of that trip was swimming in the Red Sea. We soon returned to Addis, hoping that in spite of the distance between Asab and Addis, that our things would arrive safely. We rented a house on the northwest of the city, and we're very happy with it. So when we got word that our goods had arrived from Asab, you can imagine the excitement we felt in getting the things that we had shipped from the States, and to at last get settled in our house. So it was a shock when we realized that our mattress crate was loaded on top of a truck with another crate on top of it, one that contained some acid. When they unloaded the truck, those things on top got thrown to the ground. Our mattress crate was smashed along with the other crate that had the acid, and it spilled all over the mattress. Though a ruined mattress was a big thing to us at the time, we realized that a mattress could be replaced, and we trusted God to provide for us. Someone has said, "You remember the good times and tend to forget the bad times." That is certainly true, but we were also learning in those early years that ministry and the blessing of those we work with more than compensated the challenges of everyday life. We're so thankful that God opened the door of Ethiopia, and we had the opportunity to enter that door. The Apostle Paul said, "For a great door and effectual is open unto me, and there are many adversaries."